We've got Robert Rector now by phone. As I mentioned, he's a senior research fellow at the Center for Health and Welfare Policy at the Heritage Foundation and a longtime expert on family policy. Robert, do we have you now?
Yes, you do.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, let's talk about the child tax credit passed back in 1997. The groups like Family Research Council helped pushing that. That's not the same thing we're hearing today when they talk about helping families, is it?
No. In fact, that 1997 credit was designed by myself with the coalition of Christian Coalition, FRC. We all joined together. But that was about tax relief for families with kids. This is not. With this bill, they say it's tax relief, but 91% of the expenditure is for families that do not pay or owe any income tax. It's simply a welfare payment, and they camouflage it. They lie about it, and they say, oh, it's tax relief. It's not intended to be tax relief. It's a cash grant. Primarily about 75-80% of it goes to single-parent families. It's a subsidy system for single-parent families. And the intention of this is to kind of reverse welfare reform from the 1990s, which said, look, we are not going to deny people aid. We're not going to put people on the street, but we expect people who are able-bodied and get assistance, whether it's cash, food, housing, or medical care, from the government. They ought to be required to do something to support themselves and their families. This is a way of getting around that and talking about it in a completely misleading way that, oh, this is about tax relief. And unfortunately, the Republicans have bought into this deception and this lie in the House so far. It's a terrible thing, but it reverses welfare reform, and it's the goal. I mean, conservatives say they understand, oh, the left and Karl Marx, he wanted to abolish private property. This is all about economics. No, because right there in the Communist Manifesto, the third item of what needs to be abolished, marriage needs to be abolished.
Right.
This is a welfare system that not only subsidizes single parenthood and non-marital birth, but it imposes substantial penalties, dramatic financial penalties on low-income parents who choose to marry. A family where maybe the father makes $25,000 a year, the mom makes, say, $20,000, as long as they don't marry and he's off the books, she gets tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars from the government. As soon as they marry, they can lose up to $20,000 a year in welfare payments. So we've deliberately made marriage economically irrational for about 40% of the population.
But that was already the case in so many other programs. This was to offset this. When you go back to the origins of the child tax credit, was to encourage family formation and help parents feel well, it didn't completely offset the cost, but we needed more children.
More children and more children within the context of marriage. That was the idea of welfare reform. And welfare reform was very successful. At the time that welfare reform was passed, 1 in 10 children in the United States was born to an unmarried teenage girl, 17 or younger. 1 in 10. And it was going up. And even the Washington Post was upset about this. But they said there's no solution. As soon as we put welfare reform in effect that said, you're not going to get a lifetime of welfare from the welfare system, that immediately dropped, and that rate has dropped down close to zero. Okay. Now that must be a dramatic increase in abortion. No, abortions among these young women also fell by the same rate. Welfare reform not only reduced non-marital childbearing, but it reduced non-marital pregnancy as well. And as a result of that, both the number of non-marital births, but also non-marital abortions, has gone down dramatically after welfare reform.
So this reverses
that reduction. There are 10 million fewer abortions that have occurred since welfare reform. All of this will reverse that.
Yeah.
It's intended to.
Intended to.
Yep. It's clearly the goal. Not for every. I mean, some of the left just likes to redistribute income because it's cuddly and it's kind and it's nice, and it's fuzzy thinking. But the hard left really buys into what Marx and Engels said, that in order to produce utopia, you not only have to get rid of private property and all that stuff, that economic conservatives, but you have to get rid of the married family. Engels is very, very clear about that.
And of course, organized religion.
What you want is non-married families. The parents don't marry. Kids are raised in government daycare. It's exactly what he says, and
so
that's
they
exactly
can program
what they want
them.
to do.
They can indoctrinate them in those government schools.
Yep.
In those formative years between when a worldview is shaped between 15 months and 13 years.
Yeah. But I would say, in contrary to what the previous guest was saying, men don't win from this, okay? Because what you're doing to men is you're robbing them of their role as a father and a breadwinner.
Oh, absolutely.
You're pushing them out of the household and replacing them with a welfare check. And that has devastating effects on everybody, but on particular the men who lose their role.
But for political power, it works.
It does work. It does. But look at the tragedy for males. If you look at fentanyl overdoses, for example.
Hey Robert, we're going to have to continue this conversation at another time. We're up against the end of the program, but
sure,
we will do it because I find it fascinating. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.